Turn-based JRPGs are the heart and soul of the genre. I mean, honestly, when someone says JRPG, what's the first thing you think of? Chances are most of us picture that classic menu-driven combat, and for good reason. I've been playing these games for as long as I can remember, from Final Fantasy VI to Lufia 2, even to modern masterpieces like Persona 5. So, whether you're a total newcomer or someone who's been grinding experience since the 90s, let's take a look at 10 turn based JRPGs that you absolutely need to play. To kick off today's list, let's start with an indie RPG that completely took me by surprise: Cosmic Star Heroine. Released in 2017 for PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, PC, Vita, and yeah, even Google Stadia. This is a sci-fi turn-based RPG developed by Zeboyd Games, the same folks behind Cthulhu Saves the World, and let me tell you, I was not expecting this game to hit as hard as it did. Now here's the thing, I didn't really go into this game expecting much. I picked it up on a whim during a PSN sale for like $3. I figured if it was bad, no big loss. I just lost the price of a coffee. But I'm so glad I took the chance because Cosmic Star Heroine completely blew past every expectation I had. At a glance, it kinda looks like a love letter to Chrono Trigger. The pixel art is clean, battles take place on the map without any transitions, and even the treasure chest looks suspiciously familiar. But when you dig into the combat, that's where this game completely becomes unique. Instead of traditional MP, Cosmic Star Heroine uses a charge-based ability system. Each ability can only be used once until you defend to recharge your abilities. That means you're encouraged to use your full moveset, not hoard your skills like in older RPGs. And then there's the hyper system, which powers up your character at specific intervals in battle. It boosts damage, resists status effects, and it creates this kind of rhythm that I've never really seen done in any other RPG. It's one of the most engaging battle systems I've ever played in any turn-based RPG. It strips away the usual stress of resource management and instead says, go nuts, be creative, have some fun. Beyond combat, it has some great interactions that will make you almost forget you're playing an indie RPG. You get to explore 3 unique planets, there's a base building system that lets you recruit NPCs Suikoden style, and the story, while it is familiar, doesn't lean too heavy into cliches. It keeps things moving with a solid pacing and just enough twists to keep you hooked. Best of all, you can beat this thing in like 15 to 20 hours. There's no bloated filler, no endless side quests, just a tight, satisfying experience that's perfect for a rainy weekend. Next up, we've got a game that I guarantee most people haven't played, or even heard of, and that's Albert Odyssey: The Legend of Eldian, released on the Sega Saturn back in 1996. This game is technically the third entry in the Albert Odyssey series, with the first 2 released on the Super Nintendo, but Legend of Eldian is by far the most accessible of the bunch, assuming you can even find it. And let's be real, the second you tell someone you're playing Albert Odyssey, the response is almost always, what's that? And honestly, I get it. It's a Sega Saturn exclusive, and the Saturn itself was a niche console with a lifespan that was way too short. Which is kind of wild, considering how stacked it was for JRPG fans. This is actually the only Saturn game I personally own, and it's actually the reason I bought a Saturn to begin with. So, what makes Albert Odyssey so worthy of a spot on this list? Well, aside from the beautiful pixel art, the charming and classic fantasy aesthetic, the real standout for me has to be the Working Designs localization. If you know about Working Designs, then you already know that Albert Odyssey is going to be a wild ride. They were infamous for their localizations in the late 90s and early 2000s, and they've got one of the most divided fan bases in the JRPG community. You've got the one group of fans who absolutely hate what they did with their games, because yeah, the translations aren't accurate, they're full of weird random 90s pop culture references that make zero sense today, and they kinda rewrote entire personalities sometimes. But then, you have the second group of fans. I'm firmly within this group. I love the chaos and I love the goofy off-the-wall dialogue. The localization has so much personality and honestly, it makes the game fun in a way that a straight-laced script just wouldn't. But that's the magic of Albert Odyssey. It's not a revolutionary RPG. The combat is as traditional as it gets. We're talking the classic quartet of attack, skill, defend, and item. There are no real combat gimmicks. No real flashy systems, but that's okay. It's the vibe of the game that carries it, that quirky charm layered over a solid, comforting JRPG framework. If you love old school RPGs with personality, and especially if you're a fan of working designs, Albert Odyssey is a lost gem worth rediscovering. Eternal Sonata. One of the few JRPGs that, for whatever reason, still isn't backward compatible on Xbox Series X. And honestly, that's kind of a shame because this game is amazing. Released by Bandai Namco back in 2007, Eternal Sonata might have one of the most fascinating and honestly boldest concepts I've ever seen in a JRPG. The entire game is basically a fever dream inside the mind of Polish composer Frédéric Chopin, taking place during his final hours as he lies on his deathbed from pulmonary tuberculosis. Yeah, it's a JRPG where the framing device is a real-life death of a classical composer. Kinda wild if I do say so myself. Now, I know what you're thinking, is this really a turn-based JRPG? And the answer is sort of? Eternal Sonata walks the line between turn-based and action combat. When your character turn comes up, you move in real time, attacking, defending, executing skills within a time limit. It's flashy, it's fluid, and it's surprisingly deep. This was actually the very first Xbox 360 game I ever bought. I picked it up alongside Enchanted Arms. I was drawn towards it because it kinda gave me the feeling of a Tales game, and it quickly became one of my most memorable games I've ever played. I actually reviewed the PS3 version of Eternal Sonata on the channel a while back, so if you're curious to dive deeper into it, definitely check that out after you're done with this video. But really, if you've got access to a PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, do yourself a favor and give Eternal Sonata a shot. It's the best little musical history lesson you'll ever get through in an RPG. Honestly, I can't help but think this game was meant to be a series. Imagine this formula, but applied to other classical composers, each one dreaming up fantastical worlds inspired by their music and their life. Bach, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, there's so much potential there. But alas, it remains a one and done. Still, what we got with Eternal Sonata is a beautiful, heartfelt RPG that dared to be different, and this is a dream worth remembering. Breath of Fire 3 was my very first entry into the series, and I swear, I had never fallen in love with the game so fast in my entire life. Originally released on the PlayStation in 1997 by Capcom, Breath of Fire 3 follows the journey of Ryu, the last known survivor of the Brood, a race of people who can transform into dragons. As Ryu travels across the world, he's trying to unravel the mystery of his heritage, his powers, and ultimately his place in a world that fears what he is. I actually discovered this gem after finishing Wild Arms 2, the JRPG that really got me hooked on the genre. At that point, I was basically on a quest to track down every turn-based RPG I could get my hands on. And when I stumbled upon Breath of Fire 3, I knew almost immediately just how special it was. But what makes this game so memorable? Honestly, it's everything. The gameplay strikes a perfect balance. It's deep, but not overwhelming. The story pacing was right in that sweet spot. Never too slow, but it never felt like it was being rushed. Breath of Fire 3 is the game that got me addicted to fishing minigames. I'm not exaggerating when I say I probably spent more time fishing than doing anything else. It was relaxing, weirdly addictive, and let's be honest, reeling in a whale with a basic fishing rod, that's just hilarious. Me and my friends actually had this thing going on where we'd be playing Breath of Fire 3, and every single time we cast it out, we hook something and we'd be like, maybe it's a whale. Yeah, this was like 20 years ago or so, but we still randomly say that. Anyways, when I try to pinpoint what makes Breath of Fire 3 truly great, I can't settle on just one thing. It's not just a single mechanic or moment, it's how everything comes together so effortlessly. The gameplay, the music, the characters, it all just clicks. This game didn't just make me a fan of Breath of Fire, it made me track down every other game in the series. And yes, that includes Dragon Quarter. I know that's a hot take, but I stand by it. Even that game has its charms. And hey, that won't be the last spicy opinion in this video. I've got an even bigger one coming up very soon. Do you have that one game that instantly takes you back to your childhood. The one that floods your mind with memories of old friends, school days, and a time where everything felt simple, fresh, and just full of wonder. For me, that game is Grandia. It was originally released in 1997 for the Sega Saturn in Japan, but most of us probably didn't touch it until 1999 when it was localized for the PlayStation by Game Arts. And from the moment it begins, Grandia becomes the game I recommend to anyone looking for that pure, unfiltered sense of adventure. No other JRPG I've played captures that feeling of adventure quite like Grandia. Every moment feels like a step into something bigger, more mysterious, more magical. Each area is distinct. Each new location brings excitement. It's one of those rare games where you're actually excited to move forward, just to see what's in the next wonderful area. You start off in a quaint little town steeped in archaeology. You say goodbye to your mom, sneak away with your best friend, and board a boat to the mainland. From there, you journey through mountains and towns and dungeons, and then you climb the end of the world, literally, a massive wall that marks the edge of a known civilization, only to discover an entirely new world on the other side. Grandia is just magical. It makes you feel like an adventurer, and that sense of momentum and wonder, it just never lets up. Sure, the story itself might be cheesy, but it's a good kind of cheese. Something like a gourmet Havarti or a nice smoked Gouda. It's wholesome, lighthearted, and just fun. If you've never played Grandia, you owe it to yourself to give it a shot. Luckily, you don't need to dig up a Saturn or a dusty old PlayStation. The Grandia HD collection is available on most platforms, and it's bundled with Grandia 2, which is almost as good as the first game, and the best part, it goes on sale all the time. Yeah, it kind of uses some strange filters that smudges everything, but you still get the core of the game. So, do you really have an excuse not to pick up the greatest adventure game of all time? Fun fact, The Legend of Dragoon was the very first game I ever bought with my own money, and to this day it holds a special place in my heart. I'll never forget slaving away on a farm, cleaning up horse poop, working my butt off, only to earn enough money to buy The Legend of Dragoon. Released by Sony in 1999, The Legend of Dragoon was the game that taught me JRPG combat could be more than just mash X to win. And that's why it really earns a spot on this list, the battle system. Instead of zoning out and spamming attack commands, Legend of Dragoon demanded timing, attention, and precision. You had to hit buttons at the right time to pull off powerful combination attacks known as additions. At first, it's just one simple button press, but as you unlock stronger additions, the patterns get more complex, rewarding you with massive damage and some hilariously cheesy voice acting. And yeah, I know the voice work is pretty rough, but come on, it's part of the charm. Now, back when it came out, Legend of Dragoon was hyped up as the potential Final Fantasy VII killer. Obviously, that didn't quite happen. It's more of a one-hit wonder. It didn't launch a franchise, it didn't get a sequel, it's been mostly forgotten by Sony. But it's one of those games that people constantly ask for a remaster or a remake for. At least it was added to the PlayStation Classics lineup on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. It's not the remake it deserves, but it's better than nothing, I guess. The story dives deep into war, ancient dragons, reincarnation, and destiny. The scale is massive, the visuals were impressive for their time, and the combat system was totally unique. That addition system was ahead of its time, and you still see its DNA today. In fact, one of the best JRPGs of 2025, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, is using the exact same idea, combining turn-based combat with real-time button inputs. So yeah, Legend of Dragoon walked so the newer games could run, and yes, I know you're already running to the comments to call me out for calling Expedition 33 a JRPG when it wasn't developed in Japan, but personally, I still believe that JRPG is a style and not a place of origin. For me, Legend of Dragoon was my first experience with this kind of gameplay, and it blew my mind at the time. And speaking of blowing minds, if you're wondering why the footage looks so much cleaner than you remember, that's because I'm using the fan-made native PC port called Severed Chains. It's a full rework that makes Legend of Dragoon feel better than ever, with sharper visuals, smoother performance, and modern quality of life features. If you love the game like I do, seriously go check it out. Even if you've played it before, this version breathes new life into a classic. I'll drop a link in the description below. Ooh, it's hot take time. Let's be honest, you wouldn't be subscribed to me if you didn't appreciate the occasional controversial opinion. Speaking of which, if you haven't already, now would be the perfect time to hit that subscribe button. So here it is, Final Fantasy XIII, released in 2009 for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. I know, some of you are already yelling at the screen. Are you out of your mind? It's just a hallway simulator. The battle system plays itself. The world's boring, the characters are flat. Pulse is the only good part of the game. Listen, I get it. I've heard all the criticisms. And you know what? I won't even try to shut them down because honestly, that's one of the things I love about the JRPG community. We all see things differently and we're all super passionate about it. But here's the thing. I genuinely, wholeheartedly believe Final Fantasy XIII deserves a spot on this list of the best turn-based JRPGs. No joke. Let me explain why. If you've been around this channel for a while, you already know I adore job systems. They're hands down one of my favorite mechanics in the entire genre. And what does Final Fantasy XIII do? It takes that classic job system and turns it into this lightning fast, real-time, paradigm-shifting battle ballet. You're not just picking classes before battles and letting things play out. You're switching job roles mid-battle, adapting on the fly, shifting between attack, defense, healing, and support setups in real time. Now sure, during the main story, you can probably get away with just switching between a couple of paradigms and letting auto battle handle the rest. But the post-game, those optional hunts, that's where the battle system really shines. Those fights push your understanding of the mechanics, your setup planning, and your timing to the max. And if you haven't dived into that post-game content, you're really missing out on what makes Final Fantasy XIII so brilliant. Now, I'm not blind to the flaws. Yes, the environments are extremely linear early on. It's called Hallway Simulator for a reason. Yes, the story is buried in data logs and isn't always well told in cutscenes. And yes, some of the characters are, well, they're very divisive. I like Snow, but I get why people don't. Hope, he grows on you. But yeah, he can be a bit much early on. But even with all that, I stand by this. Final Fantasy XIII is one of the best turn-based JRPGs of its generation. And if you're still wondering about my questionable tastes, I'll just leave you with this. I seriously considered putting Final Fantasy X-2 on this list instead of 13. Yeah, I really love job systems. Is it really that obvious? No, if Final Fantasy XIII wasn't the game for you, maybe this game was. Lost Odyssey, released in 2007 for the Xbox 360, was developed by Mistwalker and directed by none other than Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy. This game feels like a true spiritual successor to the PS1 era Final Fantasies. The second you start it up, it just clicks. There's a reason people often refer to it as the real Final Fantasy XIII. You play as Kaim Argonar, a man who's been alive for over 1,000 years. But he doesn't remember any of it. That setup alone had me hooked. But what really hit me, like emotionally hit me, was how the story unfolds. Throughout the game, you unlock these short stories called 1,000 Years of Dreams. These aren't flashy cutscenes. There's no voice acting, just text on the screen with a little soft emotional music in the background. And somehow, they're some of the most powerful moments I have ever experienced in a JRPG. They're beautifully written and incredibly human. Each one explores something heavy: grief, regret, love, death, forgiveness. It's rare that writing alone in a game hits that hard, but Lost Odyssey nails it. You just sit there reading it, and before you know it, you have tears streaming down your cheeks, and you're just feeling something incredibly real. And yeah, this game gives you a world map, explorations, towns full of people, and meaningful side quests. It's everything a lot of us felt was missing from JRPGs back then. It felt classic in the best way. Lost Odyssey doesn't get the love it deserves, but for those who played it, it sticks with you. It's one of those games that quietly burrows into your memory and never leaves. Until it gets a PC port, which is absolutely demanded by people, you'll have to find a 360 laying around or an Xbox that supports backward compatibility. Please give it a shot. Lost Odyssey really stands out among all the JRPGs of its time. You know, it's kind of wild to look back and realize that for so many of us, Pokemon Red and Blue weren't just the start of a franchise. Back then, I didn't even know what a JRPG was. I wasn't thinking about turn-based battles, party composition, elemental matchups. I was just a snot-nosed kid booting up a chunky gray Game Boy, hearing that weird intro jingle, staring at the pixelated Charmander on the screen, and somehow, that was enough to open me up to the entire genre. Sure, Pokemon was everywhere at the time. The anime, the trading cards, the toys. But the games, that's what caught my interest. Every wild encounter, every gym leader, every time you debated whether to risk one more hit or use a potion. It truly is baby's first JRPG. I know people use it as an insult, but there's no real other way to describe it. You start to realize which moves hit harder, when to switch Pokemon, how to build a team that covers its weaknesses. It was all there, just wrapped up in something so fun and approachable. You didn't even notice you were learning. Of course, Pokemon Red and Blue weren't perfect. Psychic types were completely broken, missing No could destroy your save file, and let's be honest, some of those sprites of Pokemon Red and Blue looked like someone tried to draw them during a fever dream with no references. But none of that mattered, because for so many of us, this was the first time we ever cared about stats. The first time we sat there debating which move we wanted to lead. The first time we realized we needed an actual strategy going into a fight. We didn't know the term turn-based JRPG, but we knew how much fun we were having. That's why Pokemon Red and Blue absolutely deserve a spot in the conversation when talking about the best turn-based JRPGs of all time. Not because of the impact, though yeah, the cultural impact was huge and massive, but because even now, stripped of the nostalgia, these games still hold up. And finally, let's talk about possibly the greatest turn-based JRPG of all time, Dragon Quest XI. I've talked about Dragon Quest countless times on this channel. After all, it's one of, if not my favorite JRPG series in existence. Released in 2017 and polished further in the expanded S version, Dragon Quest XI is exactly what a turn-based JRPG should be. It doesn't try to reinvent the wheel or rely on flashy gimmicks, instead it asks, remember why you fell in love with these games? Then it gives you that, but even better. The world is massive, vibrant, it's bursting with charm, towns feel alive, bustling with personality, and the NPCs you meet aren't just background filler. All the quests that you can take show their stories and their quirks. The music swells and shifts perfectly to every moment, making the experience truly immersive. That cast is top tier. Eric, Veronica, Serena, Sylvando, they're some of the most diverse characters with the most radically unique personalities. They grow, struggle, and celebrate alongside you. Their character arcs feel meaningful and earned, and you genuinely want to see where their stories lead. Combat sticks to classic turn-based routes, but then smartly adds modern touches like pet powers, intricate skill trees, and seamless battle transitions that respect your time without rushing the strategy. The best way to describe Dragon Quest XI is like, it's comfort food and fine dining rolled into one package. It's the kind of game you can lose yourself in for 100 hours and still crave more. For newcomers, it's actually the perfect gateway into the genre. For longtime fans, it's a heartfelt love letter, and for me, it's just the best modern turn-based JRPG. So there you have it. We've taken a journey through some of the best turn-based JRPGs out there. I hope this video brought back some incredible memories, and maybe even introduced you to a few hidden gems. Now it's your turn. I want to hear from you. Which turn-based JRPGs do you think deserve a spot in the top 10? Drop your favorites in the comments below, and let's get a great conversation going and maybe discover some titles we've all been missing out on. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the classics and modern masterpieces, please hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on more JRPG content like this. And while you're at it, tap that bell icon so you get notified the moment new videos go live. It is the best way to support the channel and the best way to have me continue doing what I do. And before you go, why not check out this next video right here where I talk about 10 perfect 10 out of 10 JRPGs. This has been Shanky. Thanks so much for watching, and I can't wait to read your recommendations and chat about these amazing games. I hope to see you on the next one. Have a wonderful day.